Hi everyone, this is what happened to me when I got government housing part 45. In this video, I wanted to take a closer look at what I was going through at that time because it wasn't just about the violent incidents with the respondent or the way I was treated by the police. It was also about my feelings and the reality of what it was like to live every day not knowing if I would be assaulted and to know that the public servants who were paid to assist people like me were refusing to help. And in some cases, they were causing more problems for my family because of their behaviour and their attitude. My life was made up of all the things that I needed to do to avoid the respondent and all of the things that I would normally do in my life. And every day I was conscious of all the things that I couldn't do because of my circumstances and because of being on a pension and because I had to spend money on the things that I needed to buy to represent myself in court and other things like the expense of washing my clothes at the laundrette. At the time, I thought that I could wait till my compensation hearing and all of that suffering would be over. But now that we know I went to court and didn't get compensation, I want to talk about the attitudes that were taken towards me and the reality of what it was like for me to live in constant danger. I've already explained that child protection turned up at my home, and I'll continue talking about that because unfortunately that situation took a long time to resolve. But I also want to talk about the reality of police duty failure and the reality of the delays that I faced in having my application for compensation hearing delayed for so long. Excuse me. If I had gone to court and received compensation, that would have solved a lot of problems for me. But even if I'd gone to court and I had been refused compensation, that would have allowed me to move on to other ways of helping myself. I also believe it would have helped me to avoid the situation that I was in with child protection. I found it ironic that I suffered a breakdown after being assaulted by the respondent and after property damage, which pushed me into extreme poverty, and after being yelled at and refused assistance by the police. In other words, I think that there is a good argument for saying that if I did have mental health problems, that they were induced by the duty failure of the police. The other thing was that child protection were claiming to be trying to help me, which is strange because if police duty failure induced mental illness in me and child protection were helping me with my supposed mental health problems, that meant that one part of the public service was causing a problem and another part of the public service was solving that problem. So the obvious conclusion from that would be that the behaviour of some public servants was a problem, and if they weren't around, my life would have been a lot easier. It has also been suggested to me that the situation I was in was planned and deliberate, and that someone in the public service was gaslighting me. Clearly, this is possible, but I don't know anyone in the public service, so that wasn't something that I considered at the time. My Christmas was ruined by B, from child protection bashing on my door and yelling at me and ignoring my efforts to show evidence that I brought my daughter to school. And she continued. On the 5th of the 1st, 2017, I got up in the morning and the first thing I did was ring the DSS complaints line because I hadn't heard from B's supervisor regarding the complaints that I had made about her. I wanted to make sure that woman stopped coming to my home. I had to avoid the respondent and now I had to avoid B as well. And it was impossible for me to do anything because I was scared of them both. I don't know what time she came to my home, but when I did open my front door later in the day, I found another note from B on the door. By this stage, it was like a sick, practical joke. B was asking me to call her, and I didn't want to speak to her. I was willing to speak to her supervisor, but for some reason they still hadn't contacted me. I was worried about what B would do to me if she didn't reach me. So I wanted her supervisor to contact me so I could tell them about B's behaviour and what my concerns were. I also wanted to find out why Child Protection thought it was extremely important to talk to me. So getting back to the way I lived and the way people treated me, I just wanted to show you a comment that I got on one of the videos in this series. The reason why I'm showing you this comment is this is the attitude that I got during the time that I was dealing with the respondent and going through the justice system. This is the attitude that I got from public servants, or from some public servants, and a few other people. But this comment is interesting because of the way it is written and the accusations that are made. So this comment states, the police know what you're about and they're not interested, which is weird because how does this person know what the police think? I believe this comment may have been written by a police officer and possibly an officer in my area, because the person who wrote the comment seems to think that they know me. And if you look at it, it also seems to be written from the perspective of the police. That's how it comes across. I also find it disturbing that the author seems to be threatening me, saying snitches get stitches. So if this comment was written by a police officer, it is a violent officer who believes that I should be assaulted for trying to protect myself from the respondent. Later in the day, at around 4:30 p.m., there was a strong chemical smell coming from the respondent's unit into mine. The smell irritated my nose and made me nauseous, but I didn't recognize the smell, so I can't describe it. I could hear the respondent stomping on my ceiling and pacing in his unit. And although I knew that I was safely in my unit, it still scared me.